Mikey is going to be happy. What a week. We're closed. Come back tomorrow night. We get a new shipment of whiskey soon.
Why didn't you protect me, Johnny? Why didn't you take the bullet for me?
Who is that? It isn't funny. I've seen people killed for less. Get out or pay the price.
Didn't you learn not to speak to your wife like that?
I'm serious now. One more peep, and it'll be the last thing you say. Get out! What is this, an ambush? Eat lead! What? It can't be. Maribel? You can't be here. You're dead.
I know. And it is all your fault. You didn't protect me. You didn't save me. You let me die.
No! I did all I could. Maribel, you lost too much blood. I was able to stop it, but by then, it was too late.
Liar! You froze! You watched me die because you're weak!
Forgive me. The doctors told me there was nothing I could do based on your wounds. But yes, I froze. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Now it is time for my revenge!
No! Please! Maribel! I love you! Please.
Johnny, we're just having fun with you. Maribel isn't here. That demon is in your mind.
Who is this?
It doesn't matter. You see, we're about to control your mind, and Johnny will be no more.
What?
Welcome to the quest for the Green Ball, Lost in Dreamlands. It was a strange week of scores, with some teams having extremely disappointing outputs and others continuing to climb the standings. We had another divisional swap for first place and one race that continues to remain very close, but overall the middle of the league doesn't have much separation. In fact, one game separates 6 teams with 2 wildcard spots on the line for those teams. Any team that gets hot now will be giving themselves the best chance to get in. That starts to bring in a playoff atmosphere to the remaining games on the schedule. And our last it was no exception as the elite Mother Tuckers traveled to Berlin 1929 to take on low-key Lebowski Thor in a match with massive tiebreaker and standings implications. Low-key Lebowski Thor is on a roll now, once again getting a big game from the quarterback position and looking solid as a team in a 108.48 to 76.08 win over the elite Mother Tuckers. Jalen Hurts led the way with 202 passing yards, 56 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns. Another dominant performance there. Tyreek Hill added a touchdown. It's been a while for him. And Alvin Kamara finished with 109 yards. The Vikings defense had 3 sacks, 2 interceptions, and a fumble recovery, allowing just 7 points. A big reason why Lebowski Thor scored over 100 here. The elite Mother Tuckers were led by Bijan Robinson, who had 144 yards and 2 scores. George Kittle added a touchdown, and the Texans defense had 5 interceptions. Tua Tagovailoa also had a score. The players to watch battle went to low-key Lebowski Thor. Chase Brown finished with 94 yards and a touchdown, though he did lose a fumble. Devon Achane had a dreaded down game, just 52 yards. Both teams are now 4-6, and both are just 1 game behind 3 teams with 2 wild cards up for grabs. The elite Mother Tuckers will need to worry about tiebreakers with this loss, however. The rest of the league featured matchups that also have a playoff flavor, and a few potential trap games in there as well. Let's get to them in the best of the rest. Hosted Air Jordan in Sydney 1842 and survived a low-scoring battle, 79.14 to 45.34. The Eagles' defense went off, allowing just 6 points and collecting 3 sacks, an interception, and 4 fumble recoveries. Mark Andrews once again reached the end zone. Kaimi Fairbairn added 3 field goals, including a 50-plus yarder. Cortland Sutton had 70 yards and a score to lead Air Jordan, but there wasn't anything after that in a very tough week. Risky Business moves to 7-3 and is just 1 game back in the Asia Pacific void and 2 games up in the wild card race. Air Jordan falls to 2-8 and is 1 game away from being eliminated. Remember, the Titans traveled to Tokyo 1981 to take on defending champion Green Acres and used a monster game to easily cruise to a 137.62 to 85.76 victory, snapping a 2-game losing streak. Jamar Chase went off in this one, falling just 2.4 points shy of the individual player's weekly scoring record. Chase had 51.4 points, 264 yards, and 3 touchdowns, collecting 7 bonus points, 2 50-plus yard touchdowns, and having over 200 receiving yards. Chuba Hubbard added 169 yards and a touchdown, though he did lose a fumble, and Brock Purdy threw for 353 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Jamar Gibbs and A.J. Brown both had over 100 yards as well. Green Acres had 269 passing yards and 2 scores from Derek Carr, and Rashad White added 70 yards and a score. Christian McCaffrey returned to collect 107 yards, and Puka Nacua had 98 yards. Remember, the Titans is now 7-3 and up by 2 games in the American Void, feeling pretty good. Green Acres falls to 3-7 and is now on life support. Minerva's Minions hosted the Overcomers and survived a tough battle, 84.54 to 81.68. This one came down to Monday night. Cooper Kupp just needed 109 yards or a bunch of other possibilities and did not get it. George Pickens led the way from the Minions with 95 yards and a touchdown. Bucky Irvin added 87 yards and a score, and Amon-Ra St. Brown picked up 60 yards and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin added 113 yards. Tyrone Tracy finished with 104 yards and a touchdown, though he did lose a fumble for the Overcomers. Derrick Henry had 71 yards and a score, and Aaron Jones finished with 101 yards. C.J. Stroud had a touchdown, and the Lions defense had 4 sacks and 2 interceptions. Minerva's Minions moves to 5-5 and is still 1 game back in the European void. The Overcomers fall to 4-6, and they are 3 games back in the American void and 1 game back of a wildcard spot. More Than Conquerors hosted the Stellar Bitches in London 25-30 and was able to get back on track with a 107.74 to 81.52 win. Kyler Murray was huge with 266 passing yards, 21 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns to help offset Joe Burrow on the other side. Burrow had 428 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. More Than Conquerors looks to have won the Joe Mixon trade. Mixon had 90 yards and a score in this one. Jordan Mason was in the backup role with the return of Christian McCaffrey and had just 5 yards. David Montgomery added a touchdown and Travis Kelce scored again. Kareem Hunt had 100 yards and the Chargers defense collected 7 sacks. Besides Burrow, Najee Harris reached the end zone for the Stellar Bitches and Darnell Mooney had 96 yards. More Than Conquerors is now 6-4 and back in first place in the European void by 1 game. The Stellar Bitches are now 5-5 and are 2 games back in the American void and in the midst of a very close wildcard race. Lastly, Pounders traveled to Barcelona in 1992 to face off with the Clash at Demon Head and won 111.8 to 54.8 in a big-time beatdown. Lamar Jackson was a monster, 290 passing yards, 33 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. James Conner added 113 yards and a score, and James Cook chipped in with 85 yards and a touchdown. The Bills' defense had 4 sacks, 3 picks, a fumble recovery, and a score of their own. It was a week to forget for the Clash at Demon Head with multiple injuries and byes to deal with. Daniel Jones had 1 touchdown but did not replace Jordan Love or the injured Trevor Lawrence well. Jonathan Taylor had 122 yards as well. Not much else to talk about. Brian Robinson being injured and Jaden Reed on a bye as well as Jordan Love didn't help. Pounders moves to 8-2 overall and remains a game up in the Asia Pacific void. The Clash at Demon Head falls to 5-5 and is now a game back in the European void and in the midst of a very close wildcard race. The top 2 teams both won, but the rest of the league continues to be up and down. There will be movement again, but the rankings remain volatile with just 4 weeks to go. We might not get clarity in the rankings until week 13 at this pace, but the standings is all that matters. Win out, you probably get in at this stage if you're only 1 game back of a wild card spot. However, there are no guarantees, and with the divisional races also closed, tiebreaker clarity for wildcard positions might be difficult to get until it's all said and done. So enjoy your ranking this week. Just remember, it might all come crashing down next week for those of us in the middle. And that's the show. Hope you enjoyed it. We have 1 more scheduled game of the week to preview tomorrow before our flex game of the weeks for week 13 and 14. And our theme story obviously will continue to heat up just like our playoff race. Check out the updated rankings before you go. Until next time, salut.